So really, today I'm really going to focus on my published book. I published this around about, I would say, maybe like a month ago, and it focuses on Boolean strings and talent sourcing tools in relation to kind of attracting and hiring a diverse talent online. And really, how I define diverse talent is BLNA, so it's Black, Latin American, and then Native American. So those are kind of the core group that we've kind of defined at my company, and kind of define them as a diverse set of people to kind of recruit for. So if you hear the term BLNA, that's kind of a internal term that we use at my company, but maybe it's common elsewhere too as well. So some stats that I've kind of pulled out, they're kind of shocking too as well. So um, so really there's a lot of stats here too as well. I won't go over all of them, but there's just some eye-catching information too as well. So you
Yeah.
know first off, like 80% of job seekers believe their companies foster diversity at work. So that's really important to kind of find a diverse workforce at your company. um, 37% of recruiters ranked recruiting more diverse candidates as a top trend in the near future as of this year. So that's really kind of a very important topic that a lot of internal companies are discussing and kind of talking about as well. And yeah, so and then very important, 30% of job seekers rank diversity as very important during kind of their job search as well. So kind of finding diverse talent is going to be really important. Online, and as well as just when you are kind of sourcing online.
Yeah, no, that's
So
great. Appreciate you sharing those statistics as well.
yeah, it's really important too, and hiring kind of a diverse group will only make your company better and thrive more. And there's so many really good important benefits to that too as well. And kind of on this page, I really focused on best practices. So first off, if you are kind of finding communities online that are diverse, make sure to follow the rules. Don't spam them. Don't say anything that's negative or in that sense, and try to be kind of empathetic to kind of the community too as well, and follow their rules, and do not use kind of the typical recruiting outreach message from the beginning. Don't auto blast them, don't spam them. Try to focus on quality over quantity. I always say that in recruiting, that's going to be very important too as well. And then kind of understanding the core purpose of that community. Why is it there? What's important about it? And how can you support them as well? So really just focusing on that will be very important too as well. And then, from there, just kind of put yourself in their shoes. Recognize that maybe this group and network is kind of a safe place for them too as well. So really being mindful of that, and respecting that is going to be important. And then on top of that, you are representing your company and your company's brand. So make sure that you are being appropriate and respectful of these communities that are online too as well. So I don't know, Cody, do you have any other examples or best practices that you've used in the past?
Well, I think what you're saying, right? Make sure that I always tell people to make sure that you look for great talent first and then apply your focus on looking in all the different pools. And when you find the communities, to your point, don't try to marginalize people and go, hey, we're just reaching out to you because you are in a demographic that we're trying to source for. You're trying to find the best talent. You're looking for that best talent, and you're treating the talent appropriately, right?
Yeah.
As a highly qualified candidate and not some kind of special program. And so I think, just doing those great sourcing practices that you talked about and outreach practices, I think that's a key. That's all I can underscore, is that you're doing a
Yeah.
great job there.
That's a good call out too. Try to, focus on that community, and that's all good suggestions too as well. So kind of the first tool that I'm going to cover today is called diversity. It's a kind of a diversity talent sourcing tool called Native Current. So it's a fairly new extension, but I've gotten to kind of meet and connect with the founder, Adam, and it's a fantastic kind of extension tool. So definitely, I'll recommend going to the website and downloading this extension. It's a freemium tool, so after a while they start to kind of charge you if you really love the tool, and really it's you're giving back to the tool too as well. You're recognizing that it's a great tool, and why not invest in it in a great product too as well. So I always recommend that. I know a lot of people want free tools, but at the end of the day, if they, if you want to have more tools, then you got to invest in them too as well. So, but yeah, you would go to kind of the Chrome store and download this extension here. And it's pretty new. There's only around 800 plus people that are actively using it every day. But once you would download that, you would go to kind of LinkedIn, and you would go to LinkedIn Recruiter or LinkedIn Sales Navigator, whichever one you do have as well. And you would go into the tool here, and it would pop up. And of course, it's loading pretty slowly. But so once everything loads, it's going to pop up on the left side of the screen here. So for different strategies. So let's say you're doing kind of a search. I know a lot of people in my world are focusing on software engineers. You would do kind of a generic search right at the bat, and then you would use these suggestions right here, kind of on the left side of my screen. And of course, it will load. And let's say you want to find women's organizations. That's another one. And you could click up to 1 to 21, or all the results that kind of come to mind. And then you would click copy, and it copies right there. And then it would generate the Boolean string. So this would kind of give you kind of a list of diverse groups online too. So you can kind of see, okay, now what pops up in my search is more female related candidates as well. So it's kind of an awesome tool when you think about it. So just kind of going down my list, African American organizations, you could kind of break it up, but let's try to do all of them too as well. So then you would copy this right here, and kind of do a generic search, but it would give you just a set of potentially diverse candidates too as well, that are associated with these different associations, nonprofits, and there's just so many here in this list. So,
Yeah.
so it's a great foundation too if you are kind of looking for diverse talent. And I mean, you could break it down even further as well, but there's just so many different examples here. So fraternities, Native American tribes, there's just so many here. It's pretty, so Latin tech as well. So if you want to kind of focus on that, and there's just so many um, areas where you can kind of expand your search. And look at that right away, so many different options here. So when
Yeah.
people say like there's no diversity like leads, I can't find people, I mean,
Yeah.
I always point them to Native Current, and be like, look, this a quick search. And within the tech field, I found some really good leads that are Latin American as well. So yeah, just kind of going through that. There's just so many different things that you can kind of do with this tool that I really enjoy too. And they've got an internal dashboard here, so where you can kind of create different jobs, and then they'll suggest different keywords in relation to kind of your job. So if you're really new to kind of Boolean generation, keywords, there's just so much you can kind of do within this tool as well. So pretty awesome,
Yeah.
if you ask me.
No, that's
Yeah,
pretty amazing. Well, one of the questions that I get a lot, Jonathan, and I'm hoping you'll
yeah,
touch on this, is um, when it comes to getting tools. So the people that asked me this were people that hadn't done any diversity sourcing before, and they wanted to get started with a couple of tools that would help give them some lift in their sourcing. Would this be one of those tools?
yeah,
Are there other ones that you're going to talk about that, like, hey, if you're just getting started, here's where you start? Because a lot of times people don't know where to start.
yep.
And so as they're getting started, what would you suggest?
100%, I would recommend Native Current. So that's kind of the core tool that I present across the board on, and it's free to kind of use up to a certain extent. So, but it still has been free for me. Eventually they do have paid accounts, but overall, I mean, there's better, more advanced like AI automation tools, but those cost a lot of money. So
Yeah.
for someone who's, doesn't have too big of a budget but wants to really invest time into diversity sourcing, maybe you have 2-3 hours in a week to focus just pure on diversity sourcing. Native Current would be kind of the tool that I would recommend and download right away. So, and there's just so many different things that you could kind of do within the tool that are just so helpful. And I'll go over, more tools that are more advanced. But if you're kind of new and want to get your feet wet, per
Yeah.
se, I would say Native Current all the way. And there's just so many different strings that you kind of add, and you don't need to use all of these strings in LinkedIn per se. You could take the string and do a search, X-ray search, even on Google per se. So it really kind of expands your options and really opens the doors to sourcing. So even doing a quick search, I mean, on Google, then of course changing up your search criteria too. You could look for resumes, profiles, so much more as well. So, but yeah, Native Current would be my top choice as
Great.
well. So, there's first name, last names too as well. So, and that's kind of a controversial thing too. And I would be interested to kind of hear your thoughts on that too as well. So, searching for names in relation to kind of diverse groups, it's doable. It wouldn't be my first choice. I would first search for, outside of this, like universities, location-based searching. There's other ways to kind of search for diverse talent, but you could search for kind of names too as well. So, do you have any
Yeah.
kind of thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, the name one is always an interesting one, right? Right. So my advice, if someone's going to search using names, I'm like you, it wouldn't be my first go-to. But if
Yeah,
you're going to search using names, go to sources like the census, right? Hey, what are the names that are produced in the census that are published? All those names, so you can try to get as many, because you can never get all the names. I think the key is if your intention is to be fully inclusive with the names, and avoid things like the not, right? Not these names, but these names. I think that's the key, is to make sure that you're focused on, let me search these names. Or so if I'm looking at traditional women's names, got from the census, got from as many lists as I possibly could to be inclusive, and avoid things like not these names, right? And so I think
yeah.
that's my approach to doing that work with names.
No, well said too. I would say that's a good approach too, and it really, it's a one of many avenues to kind of
Yes.
search. So if you want to give it a shot, recommend it. You could search for names online or use Native Current, but it's just
Okay.
one avenue. And if this is your only source, that I would not just recommend just doing this,
Yeah.
just because names are so different based on cultures and communities and locations. So you really kind of really narrowing your search right off the bat. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, no, well said.
Yeah. Very good.
So great. So yeah, that's kind of the first tool is Native Current. It's a great tool. Definitely recommend downloading it. And if you guys have any questions on that, definitely reach out to me as well.